If you've been confused with the differences between softened versus deionized water and what's needed to keep those systems refreshed or recharged, this video is just for you, so stick around and watch. I have in front of me two tanks. One of them is to soften the water, the other one is to deionize the water. Today, I'm going to walk you through the differences between the two and show you how I regenerate the resin inside the softener tank. I'm Steve from RV Squared. I want to take you through some basics on the differences between the deionized tank and the softener tank. Generally, for all purposes, the softener is the recommended treatment. The deionizer system is generally reserved for washing your coach or washing your vehicle. The reason why is the resin inside of it is not rechargeable. You actually have to take the resin out. If you have a system like a CR Spotless, on the other hand, you have to take the actual cartridge out or the filter and replace it. It can get pretty expensive, anywhere from $100 on up to recharge or refresh or actually change the filter or change the resin. So depending on your system, it's a replaceable resin bed. It also tends to have a shorter usage between recharging or replacing. So it's not wise to fill up your coach with 100 or 200 gallons of deionized water. Sure, it would be great, but it's kind of a waste of money because generally speaking, you're not getting too much benefit by running that deionized water in your coach. Now, before we go over to the softener, which we'll spend the majority of this video talking about, I want to show you the differences that get people confused on what these two systems actually do. Just bear with me and I will try to break it down and just kind of make it simple for you to understand, or I should say simplify it in hopes that you'll understand. Let's talk about what a softener tank does. It has a resin in there that helps eliminate the calcium and magnesium and some iron. So what that does for your coach is it removes the chances of calcium deposits, staining, and it helps your plumbing. It makes your skin feel better, your hair feel better. It makes the soap go further. It just makes a good skin feel when you're taking a shower. The laundry comes out better. It's just a good all-purpose, everyday water treatment, and it's not necessarily designed for drinking. Some people would say, I don't like the taste of softened water, which is true. Again, it's not designed for drinking. It's designed for everyday usage. The deionizer removes all the solids. So it takes all the minerals and all the solids out of the water. All those metals are what stick and dry onto your paint and will cause hard water spotting. The systems used to measure these two may sound similar, but the devices used to measure the output of these two systems are completely different. So let's talk about the deionized system first. The deionized output has to be measured with a TDS meter. The TDS meters look very similar to this. Some coaches, the newer coach, in fact, the newer ones have this TDS meter built into it. And sometimes it's just a green or a red light that basically tells you, hey, you need to recharge your system or replace the resin bed or replace the filter. But for this system, you have this very inexpensive meter. They're only about $7. And you basically turn this on, you connect this to your water supply, you dip this in the water and you measure it and it'll come out with ppm, parts per million. You want to see 0. And when you bring water in that's fresh, it's going to be maybe 200, 300 or even more. If you're in Arizona, it's sky high. So these things really have to work hard to remove all those minerals out of the water. So you'll get very short life on these. I can't quote how long because every single water source is going to be different. But this is a double tank, and you can go on to their website and they have charts that will give you the estimate on how many gallons are expected for a given amount of hard water. But I want to show you, this is different. This is the TDS meter, total dissolved solids. It's completely different to measuring the softener system. Now, since the focus on this video will be the softener tank, let's go ahead and put this stuff off the side, because I have other videos that talk about the deionized system, and what I don't want to do is I don't want you to become confused when I start talking about what to do with the softener system. The softener tank that I use is from On The Go. There are a number of them out there. This one works really well. It's called the double softener, so it has twice the capacity. For those of you scuba divers, it looks very much like the high pressure little scuba tank. It, to be recharged, takes 2 pounds of salt. They are all measured with a hardness strip. These are test strips. This is not a TDS meter. The process in which you test the water output is you dip this in water, and then in 3 seconds you take an immediate reading, and there's a color chart on the side of the bottle, and it measures it in 0 up to 1,000 very hard. So for those of you that are in Arizona, don't be surprised if it's above 400. But around here, the normal tap water's around 250 to 350 at the most. And the goal of this is obviously to bring the ppm down to 0. So you might be confused, well, what's the difference? Again, this is a chemical strip that's designed to measure the content of the calcium and magnesium in the terms of water hardness. This takes hard water and turns it into soft water. It doesn't remove all the solids. So a lot of you have asked, well, can I use softened water to wash my vehicles? The answer is, yeah, you can use anything you want. You're not going to be happy with it. This is still going to have solids in the water. Remember, it doesn't filter out metals and other solids. It's only reducing the calcium, magnesium, and iron. So you're going to get spotting. How much spotting? Again, it really depends on the input of water, how much extra minerals there are, how many metals there are. So I don't use it for washing vehicles. On the other hand, it's a great tool to have for filling up your tanks in your coach. It's just better for your coach altogether. It keeps your faucets running better, doesn't clog up your screens as much. It doesn't put mineral deposits on your shower doors, your fixtures. It's certainly better for the toilet screens too. For those of you that have problems with calcium getting into your toilet screens, it can wreak havoc. So this is a good way to go. So let's walk over here, and I'm going to take a reading for you, and I'm just going to run in some cold water. And by the way, one of the big benefits of having softened water is it's easier on your water heater, because as the water inside your water heater continually gets heated up and cools down, you start getting evaporation in there. And when the water is evaporated, it'll leave behind deposits, which is the whole problem when you wash a vehicle and it evaporates, it leaves the deposits behind. In the case of hard water, before you treat it, it can leave a whole lot more calcium deposits inside your water heater, and that's a bad deal. All right, so I'm going to walk towards the camera when I test this for you so you can kind of see what it looks like. So let's do that. You'll see a scale, 0, 40, 80, 120, 180, 240. So I'm going to dip this in. I'll put this down on the ground after I do this, and I'm going to bring it up, and you'll see it change color. You see right now the strip is like yellow. 1, 2, 3. Shake that off a little bit, and you will see that I'm kind of up here between 180 and 250. I'm going to hold this, see there? It's between 180 and 250. Now, if I were to go inside and take a shower or wash my hands, you'll actually feel a little bit of difference. One of the benefits of having softened water is it makes it feel a lot better on your skin when you use soap. And for those of you that have a softened system at home like we do, you know that it feels a lot better when you're taking a shower with softened water than with hard water. And in fact, you can actually feel the difference when your tank needs recharging. So my last tank fill, I noticed that things were getting a little bit stickier. So I knew it was time to do a regenerate. Now let's talk about what it means to regenerate your softener tank. One of the benefits of having an on-the-go tank like this, it has a resin bead inside that you don't replace. It doesn't have a cartridge. And to regenerate or recharge, some people would say, the resin beads inside, all you need to do is take the cap off and put in, for this case it's a double, 2 pounds of table salt. I just give it a quick tamp. It helps to drain the water out. So you turn this thing upside down and drain the water out. Gives you more room up here. You unscrew the cap, and there's 2 ways to do the salt. One is just to go ahead and pour the salt directly in the top. Sometimes it'll clog up on the top, but that's okay because it's super easy to get it to run down inside, like right there. It'll chase its way down, but what I normally do is I'll just get a nice, I'll just get a little bit of water and pour it down the neck, and that'll chase the salt down. The other method you can do is you can actually dilute the salt into a quart of water and pour the quart of water inside. It's the same thing, doesn't matter. This, for me, just goes fast. This tank's lasted me, it's going on 5 years now. Take good care of it, recharge it. They'll tell you you get easy 10 years out of this. This is just regular old Morton's salt. You can use any salt you've got. By the way, if you need these, I will provide a link for you down in the description, and you can pick this up. I do recommend that you get the one that has the brass fittings, because I find that brass is just easier to work with. It leaks less. And you know, the problem is if you accidentally turn this thing on its side, or it tips over, or you bang up something against those poly fittings, you know, and you nick it, well, they don't seal as well. So I prefer to have brass, and it costs you, I think this company charges you a whopping $5 more to put the brass fittings on there. So that's what I recommend you doing. You want to clean this neck off really well. The reason why is that has a seal on it, and I always make sure I keep these seals lubricated with a little bit of silicone in there, and that way it just makes the gaskets last longer, and it lets them ride on silicone grease rather than being dry. So I always check that in there, make sure. I am going to go and put a little bit of O-ring grease on here because it's just a little bit dry. So I'll be right back. There we go. I don't want any resin beads on top. The resin beads, by the way, have a golden look to them, and they don't really change color much. They always stay golden. So now that the salt's in there, you just crank that cap on there tightly, and this is a straightforward trickle. You're going to come in the normal input, and you're going to watch the output. The suggested output is no more than a trickle just past the neck of the bottle. So it's about a pencil size. You want to do that for 30 minutes. So I'm going to move this over here a little bit and get this connected. I'll start off a little strong at first to get the hose line clear of the air. So now you're going to back this down until there's just a pencil trickle. And again, it's just going to clear the side of the tank. That's all you want. That looks pretty good. Just a pencil width. Now I'm going to let that flow for 30 minutes.
30 minutes, counting down.
When we come back, we're going to open it up wide open, and that'll flush all the residual salt out. What the process here is that if you were to taste this, yummy. It's salt water. And what's happening is the salt is coming in and it's recharging. And again, this is not the science lecture, and I'm not Bill Nye. It just recharges and it does all this magic stuff, which is pretty cool. But in the process, it takes and puts salt water out. Now, one of the questions that people have asked along the way is, well, I have health issues and cardiac issues, and I don't particularly care to ingest or drink salt. If you're drinking this water and you have a cardiac condition, I would check with your cardiologist. And obviously, to be super safe, don't drink this water. Most of the people I know drink purified water, or they drink bottled water or special water like RO water, and they're not going to be drinking this anyway. This is going to be coming out of your taps in your coach. You're going to be using it for dishwashing, hand washing, and showering. And so you're not going to be ingesting this water. But otherwise, it's set it and forget it. I connect this up with my 3-stage filter to filter out the water before it hits the softener, which helps this stay alive a little bit longer. It stretches the resin beads out longer too. It gives them a longer life. And that link for my system is in the description below. So check that out. And I can make those systems for you if you don't choose to do it yourself. And I also configure the softener tank as well with quick connects, and as well as I reconfigure the hose that comes with it, which is just a junky little short hose. I reconfigure that for a back flush hose, which works out really cool, because then when you want to connect your system and back flush it every month or so, it makes it simple. You just connect up that little quick connect hose I've got, attach it in the out, and flush it out for 5 minutes full throttle. And that'll give you a little bit longer life between having to regenerate. Now, regenerate, how long do I go? Can't answer that. I've never been able to actually put a timestamp on it. You know, depending on how much water we're flowing through the coach and how many showers and how many washes we're doing, your mileage will vary greatly. It also depends on the water source that's coming in. If I'm in a very softened section of the nation, not a big deal. But out west of the Rockies, we get a lot of hard water out here, so you're going to really limit the amount of capacity this softener has to soften that water. So I hope that makes sense. Kind of a long way of saying your mileage may vary, but it truly does in this case. Next, we have to flush it. Full throttle. So I'm going to go over and kick the hose on full and hopefully not make a mess. Now you're probably wondering what this water tastes like now. Still going to be a little salty, but hardly detectable at all. But what this does is just gets high flow going through that tank and clears out any last remainders of salt that's in there. So we're going to set the timer for 8 minutes.
8 minutes, counting down.
And we'll be back. Okay. Now that the flow has been turned down and the flush went for a good 8 minutes, I want to show you the results. So just like before, I'm going to take out a strip, and I am going to take out one more because I know you're dying to find out what the input was. So here's the output after a nice recharged tank. I want you to see the two test strips are identical in color. And if you look down here, it's right down there at 0 where it's supposed to be. So let's test the input side. Here it is right out of the hose. Same thing, 3 seconds. Now you can see that the reading is somewhere between, just probably under 180. Can you see the color difference? About 180. Let me get you the other strip for comparison. It's been sitting on the sun a little bit dark, but that's okay. See the difference? So there's the water input from the source of the tap, and there it is, the output, softened. You can see it's down at 0, and the input is probably somewhere around 180, maybe even a little bit higher, somewhere around there, but you can see it's doing its job. The process took about 40 minutes, give or take. I like to give it a little bit of a drainage to get a little bit of the water out. Makes it easier on my back. That'll go back on the coach, ready to supply the coach with good softened water. Thank you for watching. If there's any questions or comments, drop them down below. I will leave a couple links in the description for these products if you're interested in purchasing them. I get a small little return off of Amazon. Helps buy a cup of coffee every now and again. If you like these videos, make sure to click the thumbs up like button. It pushes these videos up. The more they get liked, the more they're suggested, and the more popular the videos are during searches. And if you want to come back and get notified, then make sure you tap the subscribe button, and then you'll get notified whenever I post these. I don't do a ton of them, but whenever I feel like something relevant comes up, I like to push the information out there. If you have any suggestions for that content, let me know. Until then, safe travels, and thanks again for watching.